give some advice to somebody that was thinking about getting started in real estate or thinking about investing in their first property, what would you suggest based on your experience and knowledge?
Get your debt right first. Yeah. I don't think we would have been in the position we were in, even with the VA loan, if we didn't have our other ducks in a row financially. And do it through whatever source makes more sense to you. I know Dave Ramsey's somewhat, on the hot seat right now. He's not my favorite person anymore, but I like the tenets of what he taught us, and we hold on to those. But there's a lot of great people out there who teach those financial foundational skills. Get yourself in order financially first. Kill your debt. I'll never...
Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. We're on episode 23. My name is Stephen Tran. I am an Oregon realtor and I'm a multifamily investor.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Lee, your co-host, and I am a loan originator that's licensed in about 7 states, based here in Portland, Oregon. And I invest in single family homes. And we have a great interview for you today. We interviewed Laurel Arenivar, who's a local realtor with a really colorful history of moving around, which is super interesting because she grew up in Texas, but she's a military or Coast Guard spouse.
Yeah.
So they've moved around to a lot of different places. They were in Alaska,
Michigan, where she got her license.
Oh yeah, Michigan.
She's in Oregon for the time being.
Yeah, it was in Seattle, Astoria, now the Portland area. So it's a great story on how to build a referral business, but also use a VA loan to invest in real estate.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting because obviously, you think of real estate as somewhere where you have to set down your roots, get your license because you're licensed in the state that you work in.
Right.
And it's so amazing, how she built her business. I'm a little bit inspired. So,
but yeah, tune in if you want to hear more.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran. I'm here with my co-host.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Lee, and we're here. We have a really special guest today. We're here with Laurel Arenivar, and so just to get us started here, Laurel, can you just give us a quick background, the quick 1-2 of where you come from and, what brought you here and kind of your story?
Great. Okay. Well, thank you guys for having me on today. I hope your audience will be a little forgiving. I'm not a podcast guru by any means.
Like I said, we were 22 episodes in. We have no idea what we're doing.
Okay.
After today, you'll be a guru.
This is episode number 1 for me.
Exactly.
So I did toy with the notion of starting my own podcast once upon a time, but that didn't take
It's never too late.
So it's never too late. Yes, here I am. So my name is Laurel Arenivar, and I am originally from West Texas, a town called El Paso. It's a great border town right up against the sister city of Juarez, Mexico, and also the state of New Mexico. I was born and raised there, and I eventually found my way here by way of the military. I am an active duty Coast Guard spouse. My husband, Michael, is in the Coast Guard.
So you guys moved around pretty regularly then?
Pretty regularly, yeah. Michael has been in the Coast Guard for 15 years this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Every how many years before he gets reposted or restationed, whatever?
So for enlisted, and we are enlisted, it's every 4 years.
Okay.
Usually officers are around 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be here in the Portland area until 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when do you get to know when the next station is?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard with the military. You have to sort of do what they say when they say to do it. But generally speaking, around the end of 2024, we'll start putting in our picks. That's what they call them.
You get to like
a wish list.
top 5 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Actually, you can go all the way down to like 30, depending on all the different billets available.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you put in your top, and depending on how good a station you're at currently will determine whether you get that top pick. So if you're like coming out of Bahrain, you're on a boat, you're experiencing some real hardship, you're away from your family a lot, months at a time, then you're probably going to get your top pick.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
But if you're sitting pretty in San Diego, you got to prepare yourself. You're probably not going to get your top pick, but that's okay. So
you've got to see some interesting areas of the country then. So you were El Paso, then where else were you?
Yeah, interesting is a good word for it, Jordan, because right out the gate, he was a brand new baby in the Coast Guard. That means that you do not get your top pick. Oh. You're bottom of the barrel. Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember what we put in, quite frankly, for our number one, but it doesn't matter because we didn't get it.
Right.
We went to Kodiak, Alaska, which is a tiny island about 90 miles off the coast of Anchorage. And yeah, that's how we got started. He was immediately put on a boat, gone for 3 months at a time.
Wow.
We didn't have kids at the time. It was really hard to make friends.
Kodiak, Alaska sounds like tiny town.
Yeah. Tiny.
Not the one where you're like on stilts because of polar bears though, right?
Well, no. I mean, tiny is an interesting word for it because you're in a tiny island and yet it feels so expansive.
Oh, island,
because there's just so much land and it really is remote. And you're just a speck in the midst of a world that really doesn't belong to infrastructure. It doesn't belong to humans. It hasn't been overtaken by them, in a sense. The bald eagles are like the crows of the area. There's tons of them everywhere. So you get used to them after a while. Sorry to say. Mm-hmm. But it was an interesting experience nonetheless. I had to learn really fast to adjust. Mm-hmm. The area was very homogenous in more ways than one. I mean, it was not diverse by any means. And I was used to being in the minority, as a white kid growing up in El Paso, Texas, in a community that's like 85% Latino or Latinx. I was the minority. A majority of my friends are Hispanic. And my husband is Hispanic. And then to be thrust into a community that is just so opposite was jarring, to say the least. So, yeah, it was tough, and it was tough to make friends.
You were there for how long?
I was there for 3 years.
And you probably weren't selling real estate there.
No, that didn't come till later. No, I got my bachelor's in poli-sci.
Okay.
And by this time in the story, I already was graduated from college and didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up still. Mm-hmm. And so I started substitute teaching, which was a great experience because I got to work with all kinds of kiddos and I learned how to support kids in special education, specifically kids with autism, which served me well in the future because then, I recently learned that my son has autism. And so I was able to really take some of those skills and apply them in a very personal way. But it was a tough experience. I wasn't happy. I had some bouts with depression, and it's not an easy subject to talk about, but we're finally coming into a space where we can talk a little bit more about mental health awareness. And I really struggled. Mm-hmm. Michael would go off on the boat and I would hop a plane and I would go back to Texas and I would stay there for 2 months at a time. Yeah. And looking back, it's like, oh, well, should you have spent all the money? Should you have squirreled it away? Had the foresight to set aside for real estate or whatever, but I don't know. And I've beat myself up at times thinking, oh man, I should have done this differently. I should have done this. I should have done that. Hindsight's 20/20, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's what gave me grounding emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And I think I desperately needed that at the time because everything was new. Everything was literally dark. Alaska was dark all the time. And it was tough to make friends, which is ironic because, here you are in
Such
a
a small
community.
town, where you know everyone.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, as a military spouse, I lived in military housing. You're surrounded by other military, and you think that it's going to be easy to break into that community, to find your tribe, so to speak, and lean on each other through all the nuances of being away from your family and just grappling with newness and all that. And no, quite frankly, that's not what happened, actually, because I tried to reach out to other Coast Guard spouses. I tried to make friends, and military spouses can be guarded, actually.
Interesting.
It's like everybody's trying to protect themselves.
Interesting.
So to speak, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Do you ever wonder how they were surviving out there if they weren't making friends and weren't trying to connect with other people?
Well, I mean, at the time, it seemed like they were doing all right, but things are not always what they seem, right?
On the outside, yeah.
No, and I think that's the point. Is like you put on your tough skin, you put on your front, you do whatever you have to survive. And I was just coming into this community; I'd never been in it before, so I had no idea what to expect. And for Coast Guard spouses or military spouses who had been in it for some time, they probably developed a way of survival that I hadn't yet. And that's not to say that I've become this guarded, mean or whatever spouse. I've tried to keep myself open, but it does get to you at times. I mean, if you're constantly changing locations, every few years,
hard to set down roots, hard to build a community.
It's hard to set down roots. It's hard to open yourself up because you don't want to be hurt.
Yep.
Because you're going to have to leave these people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So yeah.
I mean, that's why, it's so interesting with your career choices, kind of like you get licensed for this place,
Yes.
I want to hear a little bit more about that if you can.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, of how you can set up a business that's for real estate, that's mobile.
So I've learned very quickly about the importance of referral business. I have made it a goal of mine. It was my mission in 2022 to get on those airplanes and go to those conferences, meet realtors from across the United States.
Which real estate conference were you going to? I know you're part of Women's Council.
I am.
They have big national conferences, right?
We do. And actually, I'm the membership director for Women's Council PDX Portland for the second year in a row.
Nice.
This is fantastic, and I'm really excited about going through it for another year, being in a position of leadership. But the Women's Council of Realtors joins up with the National Association of Realtors, and they meet in the same place twice a year.
They're kind of simo.
Yeah, they go on simultaneously. And this last November, we meet twice a year, once in May and once in November. This last November, we met in Orlando.
Oh.
And so I was just there right before Thanksgiving break. It was
Wasn't there a hurricane?
fantastic. We were fine. People were freaking out, but it was windy.
Yeah.
There was some rain. We were fine. We hunkered down and we networked.
Yeah.
It's fine. And we learned, So it was a really great experience. But that was my second annual conference. And then in May, I had gone to DC. We meet annually in DC, always in the same spot every May. So both of those conferences, you're meeting with these people who aren't just colleagues, they're friends. They're friends. And I can't help it. I will find the Texan in the room because I'm from Texas. So whenever I go to my conferences, I got to see my Texas ladies. And I have forged these relationships with these people, men and women. And I know it's going to be for the long term. And when you sit down and you really get to know someone, you feel very confident that if your client is moving where they're going, that realtor is going to take the best care of them.
Yeah.
So it's more than just referring business. It's about providing that extra assurance to the people that you represent and care for. Your friends, your family, people that entrust you with their business, with their home, that they'll be in the best possible situation. They'll be able to go through that process, that home buying and selling process, smoothly and successfully, because you've handed off the ball to someone you can trust. Yeah. It's not just somebody you have to Google and find and be like, oh, okay, here's this, Joe Schmo from wherever. Try this dude out.
What would you say? Like, what percentage of your business now is referral based from like out of state or sending to out of state?
Well, this last year was 100% actually.
Oh, really?
I got all my business was referral business. Yeah. So, and I'd like to see, 80% and up consistently come from referral business, because going back to what you were saying a second ago, like being mobile as I am, that's got to be the crux of my business. That's the bedrock of my success. Knowing that I'm going to move around a lot, I've got to have those, that structure in place, and those colleagues or professional connections wherever I go that can always provide business, throw business my way, because they trust me to do a great job with their colleagues, and they know who I am personally. And so, yeah, so that's something I would definitely encourage other realtors to get involved in. And that's why I'm a part of Women's Council, which I hope your viewers and listeners will encourage joining, because it's a great organization for women and men to build that referral business, those connections, in state, out of state, in town, out of town. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a blast too. We went to the gala.
Yes,
we had a lot of fun.
Blast.
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you guys came and are a part of it.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely raged.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, a little bit.
So
nice.
Another interesting thing, military spouse, military family, moving around regularly. Some of my clients have done, that. Talk to us about the strategy of buying a primary as a veteran,
mm-hmm.
and then being able to, move and buy another primary with the VA loan. Have you seen that in your community, in your travels, or have you guys done that?
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. I've done business a lot with fellow coasties who consistently buy wherever they are stationed.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them buy and hold. Some of them turn around and sell, and then they rebuy in the new location where they're at. Obviously, I'm not a VA specialist. This is not my main area of expertise, so I'm not going to go into the nuances of all of that. And a VA specialist would be really able to comb over those avenues and
but the general higher level concept is,
yes,
you can, as a veteran, you have the opportunity to buy a
mm-hmm.
home with zero down.
Yes.
Your
you
primary.
Absolutely can. Yes, you do. Right, exactly. And so you have to buy it as a primary.
Mm-hmm.
You live there for a certain amount of time before you can either turn around and rent it out,
mm-hmm.
or you can sell it altogether and you start over, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But I have known folks who they buy and hold their house, they bought it with the VA, and then they turn around and they buy again using the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're gonna, at some point, you're gonna hit your threshold.
Right.
You can't just own 16 properties with the VA.
At some
you
point,
can't.
You'll have to refinance out.
You'll have to refinance out, and depending on how much you spend per property, you probably get up to 4, let's say, single families. I know you're into multis, but I'm in the single family world in my head. Properties using the VA, because you only have so much allotted to you. Essentially.
Yeah. Your eligibility.
Can I ask, is it just like your DTI just gets so bad at some point?
No, it's not. It's not based on that. It's just there's a specific amount of eligibility that you have.
Okay.
And once you've used it, it impacts further uses of it. And yeah, not to get in too much into the weeds, but there's a limit on that, and you have to like come in with a down payment after you've reached a certain threshold. But if you're both military, if both spouses are military, then you can use
Exactly.
use them separately. So there's a lot of different ways that you can.
There's strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can strategize.
Well, and as you're moving regularly in a time period that does give you an opportunity to build some equity, you can build, over your career, you can build a nice portfolio, and military, they have a nice living stipend as well as part of that, which makes qualification pretty not terrible if you manage your debt well.
If you managed your debt well, and depending on where you go, I know that they just lifted the BAH, basic allowance for housing, which is what you're talking about. Yeah, in the Portland area. So, like up in the Sioux, where I was just before this, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, BAH was terrible. It just was not. It didn't do well with inflation. It just, the cost of living and that just were not in alignment with one another. So it does depend, but generally speaking, you're right. That BAH is separate from the income that you take in as military. And you can turn around, you can throw it at rent, you can turn around, you can throw it at mortgage. And I think you brought up an interesting point about debt. You're absolutely right. Just in general, when we're talking about real estate investment, and I want to pick your brain about this a little bit more because I know that you're super into real estate investment, but you're obviously going to have more success, VA or no VA, if you've got your debt down.
Yeah.
And you've got that cash on hand to be able to turn around and throw it at things that actually appreciate rather than cars that you finance that don't, right?
Oh, yeah. No,
I know I'm making kind of like my little side points here, but it's a good reminder for your viewers, right? Because if they're looking for tips on how to get started and things of that nature,
oftentimes a car loan will lower the amount that you can qualify for on a house by $100,000. I mean,
you want to get your money into, if you're going to go get debt, put it into good debt, into an appreciating asset. I mean, if you get like a luxury car or like a Maserati, maybe that counts as a appreciating vehicle, but most
maybe if it's like limited, if it's a limited amount,
like some kind of Porsche or something, I don't know.
Yeah,
but generally not
yeah.
So no, I love real estate, and my thing with multifamily is forced appreciation. With these single family, and I still think it's a good investment if you can get it at 0% down and leverage yourself. Getting an asset that grows with the community based on what's it called, comparison approach in terms of appraisal is just hopefully in a good market it'll appreciate with good value, and you can refinance and hopefully lower your payment, and hopefully your rents keep going up. And so this is this inverse relationship where it will turn into a good investment over time. I think all real estate generally does. So, single family, multifamily.
Well, and with a VA loan, you can get multifamily too.
Yes.
You can.
It's not only for single
And I
family.
helped my client.
Yeah.
He was a brand new puppy in the Coast Guard, and he was like 20 years old. And his first property that we bought just last year, actually, 2021, excuse me, we're in 2023 now. So, was a multi.
Well, that's the amazing
duplex
thing too, right? You could be 18, 19, 20 years old, you have strong income, you don't have to save money, right? You could put zero down and you can qualify for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Ultimate hack,
Yeah, and now he's house hacking, essentially. Yeah, he lives on one side and he's hacking the other. He's getting his renter, he's putting him in there. And then he recently got out of the military, but he's still got that property thanks to the military and thanks to the VA loan. And he's doing other things now, but he's got that system in place, and he's jump started.
And he only has to live in that one for a year as well, right? Just like any other loan. Probably.
Yeah, I mean the mortgage note that you're signing says that you intend to live in it for 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that you intend to.
Because mine was
of course,
FHA,
life comes up, right?
Yeah, things happen. You have to move, etc. But 12 months in, he can rent that out. And now that he's out of the military, maybe he qualifies for. Does he qualify for FHA after that?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you're always you can always qualify for conventional, primary, FHA, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and so just he could find other ways to leverage himself, and I don't know how old he is, but like a couple years in, he could have 2 multifamily properties with very little down. Yeah.
But I loved what you said about forced appreciation, because you're really taking an asset and you're putting it on steroids, essentially.
Yeah.
depending on what you can do with either your own sweat and blood and, whatever, and what you can afford to give over to a contractor to do the rest, right?
Sometimes it's not even that. Forced appreciation in terms of just raising your rents. Let's just say, people just move out and it's like, okay, well, I'll clean it up. I'll do a quick paint job. Maybe I don't know anything, because that's how I started. I was like, oh, just paint, and raised my rents to market rent. And a year later, half my appraisal was comparison approach, half my appraisal was income approach. And because I raised my income, I raised the value of my property like $130,000 within a year. And I put $30,000 down on that property. So I was like, wow. So that's why I love multifamily, because, comparison approach is great in a good market, but if it's not a good market,
it gives you control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to have that ability to control it more so than just what the market.
And then if you get to commercial, 5 units plus, and I mean, obviously we're not going to have the great leverage of FHA or VA, but now it's all income approach. And, then you control your whole entire destiny yourself. You can get everybody out, fix it up, get it to market.
Yeah. And of course, there's always going to be market forces, right? There's going to be vacancy and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I feel like you do, to Stephen's point, you might have a little more control that way. So, yeah. And then another thing I wanted to hear more about, Laurel, is you've got these movements. What did you do? Did you guys buy homes every time you moved, or did you invest in other areas? I know you love Texas and you know that market really well. So what has your kind of strategy around that been?
Okay, so the first property that we ever bought was in Seattle.
Oh.
We were in the military.
Before it went crazy, or
before it went crazy?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Nice.
That's the best.
The story of why Laurel became a realtor right here. It was 2013. And we bought our first single family house. Oh yeah, it was a beautiful, sweet time.
Which neighborhood in Seattle?
We were in West Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, West Seattle. Okay.
Yeah. Just north of the White Center area. It was a fantastic neighborhood. I was really sad to leave it, actually. Small house. It was a ranch, so I didn't have to worry about stairs. It had really great hardwood floor. They'd taken really great care of that. Kind of an older kitchen, but there was potential there.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it. It had a big yard as well.
Decent lot, yeah.
Decent lot. So we came in and we actually used a Keller Williams realtor. I will never forget them, actually, Rich and Shelley. They were absolutely amazing, just amazing people. So they came in, they helped us. We negotiated a great price, got in there. And then a couple years later, the market started to bounce back. And there was chatter in my husband's office. Hey man, have you taken a look at your property lately? Have you seen this? Look at this. Look at my house, And this guy who Michael was talking to, my husband's name is Michael. And at the time, he's trying to show my husband, hey man, have you checked out your property lately? Have you looked at this? Look, my house is in Tacoma and this is what I'm getting. So my husband got on and he started, mulling around, and he was like, oh my gosh, what? And so he came home and he showed me, and long story short, we sold our house for more than double what we paid for it in 3 years' time.
Nice.
No taxes on it, right?
And
no taxes on the gains?
No taxes on the gains. Yeah. And up to this point, we were avid Dave Ramsey followers. We were doing the baby steps. And we had $1,000 in our emergency fund. We were working on our debt snowball. We had already taken Michael's bonus that he got from the military and thrown it at all our credit card debt. We were paying cash for cars, and some of these cars were clunkers. I think one car we got in Kodiak was like $800, and you could see the road through the bottom of the floor, but it didn't matter because we were getting out of debt. And man, that thing took us. I think that was like a 1992 Subaru, like Loyale or something like that. Amazing. I mean, it was red. It was not a hot car.
Yeah.
It's not a Porsche.
I don't have one of those
by any means, but we paid cash for it. We were able to get out of debt. So with all of that underneath our belt, we budgeted every month. We really had a good system in place. Now suddenly this influx of cash was a blessing, not a burden. Because, if you're not responsible with your money, you could get paid $1 million tomorrow and it could be gone in 6 months' time because you're not a good steward of your cash, right?
And you never had that kind of just sudden influx of cash.
Exactly.
Before. Yeah.
So here it was sitting right before us, but we were following the plan, and so we knew right away, okay, we've got to pay off the remaining bit of our student loan debt, which is what we did.
Nice.
We opened up investment accounts like Roths and IRAs.
Oh, nice.
We bought a decent car for cash at a dealership, not from a private party. So that car lasted us a while. We started. What?
I still haven't gone to a dealership yet. I've still only bought directly from people.
That's fine. I mean, if it's a good source, it doesn't matter. I was just excited to have that opportunity. And we purchased another house. We didn't use the VA though.
Okay.
We paid conventional. We had to put 15% down, and we bought in Texas. So this kind of goes back to what you were talking about.
So you bought an investment property.
We bought an investment property, and that's what we chose to do because.
So you didn't go and just get like a bigger, nicer house that you were more comfortable in. You went and invested it.
We went and invested it.
Smart.
It was a pure investment.
Love it.
And this is the strategy that we've played going forward, because this was in 2017.
Okay.
Well, we sold our house in 2016, and then we turned around and we started, buying property. Single family homes. Haven't broken to the multi. I read all the Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
Books. I thought about it. I dreamed about it, and I was like, I don't know. So let's stick with single family for now.
And you bought in Texas where?
I bought in my hometown of El Paso. I wanted to stay in my
invest in what you know, right?
I wanted to invest in what I know. I'm kind of a comfort zone person. I like to do what I know. I won't ever if I take a car, if I use my GPS and I go to a location and I'm leaving afterwards, I will go back the exact same way. I won't go another way because that's the road less traveled. I want to go back the way I came. That's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
So I don't take as many risks. As some of your viewers might, which is fantastic. Good for you. That's something I aim to do maybe later on in my life, but haven't gotten there yet. And you know what? It was a good play though for us because we bought an affordable house, one within our budget. And now looking back, we've steadily raised the rent to keep up with inflation, but still provide a quality home for renters who deserve a good quality home and who want to someday have access to home ownership, but maybe they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so that has become my focus as a real estate investor is, providing extra housing for folks who need it. But who someday deserve to be homeowners like us. And so right now we've got a military family in there because, where the house is located, it's off one of the main byways that goes straight to Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss is one of the largest Army bases in the country, and that's the one that's situated in El Paso. So we bought because we knew about that area. That's where I'm from, but also because, the tenants, the types of tenants that are out there, you've got a lot of military family. And so I wanted to rent, or we wanted to rent to military, not specifically. Obviously, we're open to any and everyone. But we knew that's a clientele that constantly needs housing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we did.
And they're very reliable tenants, right?
And they're very reliable tenants. They have to be, because if they don't pay their rent, they get in trouble, essentially. But so that's kind of the game plan that we chose. And after we did all this, I wasn't even an agent yet.
Oh, okay. So
2016, we sell our house, and then we move into a rental for the last year that we're there, because we were stationed out in June of 2017. So we moved, and then we were in this rental for less than a year before they moved us again to Michigan, which is where we went next.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And, I'm like pregnant at the time, about to give birth to my 4th child. So like all this is going down. I already have 3 kids. And I just started reading like Bigger Pockets. I started reading all these books. I just started crushing books left and right. Like, and I got the bug so bad. And I'm like, what have I been doing with my whole life? Why? Why didn't I get started earlier? Right. Why didn't I do this earlier? So I knew I needed more education. And as soon as we got to Michigan, I got licensed and I became a realtor. And, within a year and a half of being out there, I was one of the top producing agents and did really well. And it's not a thriving market compared to what you would say Portland is, in the sense that your average home price is not $500K up.
Right. Mm-hmm. What part of Michigan was this?
This is Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. This is right butted up against the Canadian border.
So how big was that town? It's like
17,000 people.
Oh.
It's still a small rural community. And I got really into USDAs. I partnered with lenders, and I helped folks who also desperately needed that zero down, that edge up. It's another great program. Yeah. Especially for folks who, again, they deserve access to home ownership, but they don't have the capital to do it. And the USDA gives you an opportunity to essentially remodel your house or house hack it for some appreciation, but using the loan that they give you. Obviously it has to come in under appraisal or at appraisal, but all that jazz. But still, it's another great program.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's here in this area. It's hard. Like there's so few USDA because the price. It just makes it hard to qualify because you have to qualify with a lower debt to income ratio on USDA, and like there's income limits on them as well. So it is a challenge in this area, but in certain areas, most people can qualify for them. So it just kind of depends on where you are in the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic loan program. Yeah.
What was the price point up there generally average? That's what I'm curious about.
Oh gosh. I would say the average was 120,000.
Oh man.
My cheapest property that I ever, my cheapest deal was 12 grand.
Ooh.
I think I took like $150 commission.
Did they even get a loan on that?
No, this is a cash buyer. Obviously, this is someone who's coming in. They had the vision to just tear it down and build a new property. And that couple that I dealt with was fantastic too, because their hearts, they were passionate about providing quality homes for that community. And unfortunately, the Sioux really has a scarcity when it comes to quality housing, and families are so desperate for it. So I worked hand in hand with this couple. Oh man, loved them. And they were like, we're going to tear this down. We're going to create a good single family, and we're going to provide quality housing for people out here. And so it was awesome. And so that $150 never felt so good, quite frankly. It was a good dinner.
Yeah.
How about that? It's not always about the money, right? You got to go for that bigger picture. And I've learned that really quickly as a realtor. Like if you get caught up in this idea of like, all right, I just need 2 more deals so I can do this and do that, and it's going to be okay. And if you make money like your central purpose and priority, you're going to burn out super fast. You, the royal you. I'm not staring at you.
No. I do focus on being a fiduciary.
Yeah,
that is
the fiduciary. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You've got to put others' needs and wants above your own. And it's not always easy, because you see other people and maybe they're like turning and burning, they're doing awesome and they're driving fancy cars and they're just being so cool. And they're like, dude, I'm crushing it in this market. And I'm, and it's tough for me. Look, I'm building my business like you. I was one of the top producing agents in Michigan. I put my heart and soul into those people. And then I came here and I didn't do so hot last year. I don't know if you want me on your podcast now.
No.
But
moving a business, starting over is so hard.
It is hard. It's humbling.
You have to do a whole new sphere and everything, and build those relationships. Coming back, like I said, I was gone for 12 years.
Okay.
From Portland, born and raised here, and left, and then came back, and all my friends had their agent, from high school that they all knew, and I had to rebuild that too. So I completely understand, like going to a new space and building a business from scratch. It's tough. It
is tough. But I will say, it's been an interesting experience so far. something else that I had to learn real fast when I was out there. As successful as I was and the things that I was doing, I witnessed a lot of racism. It was bad.
Interesting.
And, being a white middle class person of a socioeconomic status that doesn't really have to worry about this stuff. If I don't want to, I don't have to worry about it, right? It's not staring me in the face and affecting me every day. It was a surprise. And it shouldn't be a surprise, but it was to me. And I was flabbergasted.
When you're in real estate, you start noticing it more, like in certain ways that you wouldn't expect to. Absolutely.
I mean, as a person who wasn't in real estate before then, no, I never had the kind of like flagrant, direct racist comments that I got from some of the clients that I represented and then subsequently refused to represent after that. But I will say in the very beginning, I had a gentleman who made a derogatory comment about a person of color. And the first time he did, I was just sort of shocked. And I stood there and in my mind, I'm thinking, did he just say what I think he said? But then I didn't do a damn thing about it.
Right.
And I got back in my car after that showing and I sat there and I was like, wow, that says a lot about you, that you didn't have the gumption in the moment to put him in his place. But then I took a step back, gave myself a little bit of grace, and I realized, but I don't know how to respond in those moments as a professional. And that's an excuse. I recognize that. That's an excuse. But going forward, whenever I would go show properties, I would be nervous. What if this person says this? What am I supposed to say? How am I supposed to respond? And so going forward, I really, I got more deeply involved in fair housing.
Yeah.
Flash forward, I'm now on the National Committee for Diversity with NAR.
Oh, wow.
And I realized that if you don't know, me talking to myself, how to respond in these moments, then you damn well better learn. Because if you say nothing, then you're just as complicit. And so I convicted myself and I'm willing to do the work. And I think that realtors, especially white realtors, have got to step up and face themselves in the mirror and say, you damn well better be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the best past for me, knowing that I didn't respond as I should have in the moment. But this community has given me so many tools, so many resources and support. And I feel empowered to be able to do what needs to be done.
I think that's great. I mean, confrontation is hard, especially when you're shocked in those moments. And, sometimes you just don't know how to respond to those things. And sometimes it is just better to leave it alone than to put yourself into a bad situation. But if you are, like I said, on fair housing and all this stuff, and you are making a difference outside of putting yourself in a bad situation, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't do it right in the beginning. After it happened, I patted myself on the back. I'm like, I'm going to start a Facebook group and we're going to be against racism. And I started inviting people to be a part of it. And a group of people, mostly people of color, found out about it and they took me to task. And they're like, well, why didn't you come sit at the tables that we already had? Why are you creating a table and you're inviting people to be a part of this, but it's on your terms? And I was like, shit, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
That was hard to hear.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay. So I started going to those tables and sitting and just listening and shutting up. And so that it's been a journey, for me individually and as a professional and as an individual. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And one of my goals that I'd like to see, especially in these organizations that I'm a part of, that I help to represent, Women's Council specifically, we don't have a single person of color in our local network.
On your board or in our
board.
membership base.
No, well, I mean, there are some gentlemen who are, and but I will tell you, I don't think it's enough. You know, we certainly need them on the board. I know I'm kind of convicting myself here because I'm part of Women's Council, but I mean, I'm willing to say the tough things, you know, and that's a goal that I think we need to work toward. And we are. I'm glad to see that the Women's Council is doing things to partner up with ARIA, to partner with NAREB and now NAREB. And I know that we have, well, let me take that back. We do have a Latina, you know, on our board. But again, it's not enough.
Yeah. It's just not an accurate representation.
It's not an accurate representation of Portland.
I think we're taking good steps. I mean,
and
we
we're
went
taking
to
good
the,
steps.
you know, what was it, the advocacy mixer. And, you know, we're trying to, I think they're starting a board with all the different affinity groups, like you said, ARIA, NAREP, WCR. And like I said, I think taking baby steps is better than taking no steps. And,
yes.
You know, they brought us together and, you know, and we all have the same vision. So I'm actually really excited to see where we go with it.
Me too.
Yeah. So, but of course, like everybody, you know, wants to move faster. We'll try to move the best we can in lockstep.
In lockstep. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a good experience so far.
That's great.
I probably gave you the longest answer to your question ever. You're like,
wow. I just kind of lost my train of thought for a second.
Yeah. Sorry. I got you there.
So, but then recently you were selling on the coast, is that right? Because you just moved here from Astoria?
I did. So once we left Michigan, again, we sold our house, rented it out for a bit in Seattle. Then we went to Michigan for 4 years.
And you didn't buy there?
And then we didn't buy there.
Okay.
I chose not to buy there. I wanted to stay in Texas. That's my strategy. And then we got relocated to Astoria.
Oh, okay.
And we were there for about a year and some change. But the Coast Guard Command Center within the sector is relocating back to Portland.
Oh,
apparently they were here like 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And then they thought it would be a good idea to go to the coast. And now they're going back. I don't know why.
Portland has a coast, right? The Columbia River?
Yes. Well, and no, the Coast Guard has always been here.
Right.
It's MSU Portland. But the sector itself, think of it like departments, was moved to the coast. And now it's being moved back, essentially. And so along with it comes our family and a few other families who are now going to be relocated out this way. So I've just been moving a lot.
Yeah,
the last 16 months, I've just been moving, lots of moving.
So your whole business is now here, and you feel like you're starting over in Portland?
Well, I mean, for the past year, I've been on the membership. I've been the membership director with Women's Council. I've been on the diversity committee with Oregon Realtors.
Okay.
So I was already involved, sort of corporately, within the infrastructure of the realtor world and industry. But yes, when it comes to clientele, like I'm definitely building. So
for 2 more years before you got to leave.
You're already trying to get rid of me here, and you're leaving.
More
you're
competition.
Leaving. You're going to be leaving. Yes. No collaboration.
Of course, yeah.
Come on.
You got referrals wherever you land next.
Yes, exactly. Or even on the coast. I'm still serving the coast.
Oh, nice.
To some degree. So, but yes, I want to make Portland, you know, my main place. I live in the Bethany area. That's my neighborhood, you know, so I'm servicing that area. I'm also looking to really focus in on the Scappoose area, because it's somewhat adjacent to where I live, and I want to be a part of that community too. I know it's outside of Portland, but still.
That's great.
So, yeah.
So if you were to, switching gears here, if you were to give some advice to somebody that was thinking about getting started in real estate or thinking about investing in their first property, what would you suggest based on your experience and knowledge?
Get your debt right first. Yeah. I don't think we would have been in the position we were in, even with the VA loan, if we didn't have our other ducks in a row financially. And I and do it through whatever source makes more sense to you. I know Dave Ramsey's somewhat, in the hot seat right now. He's not my favorite person anymore, but I like the tenets of what he taught us, and we hold on to those. But there's a lot of great people out there who teach those financial foundational skills. Get yourself in order financially first. Kill your debt. I'll never forget the day that I picked up the phone and I called to kill the last remaining bit of my debt, that student loan debt that was just like this albatross just hanging around my neck.
Yeah.
It just never went away. It was like the last remaining bit of debt. And I called her on the phone and I said, I want to pay off my student loan debt. She said, "Are you sure?" That's what she said to me. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And I gave her the remaining amount and I just hung up that phone and I just started weeping. It was a very emotional, but empowering and freeing moment for me, because I knew that the doors had just opened up, and all
that was
of
what you
that,
needed to feel like you could make a risk or take a
exactly.
take a leap.
I don't think, and I know there's good debt and bad debt. I know that. I mean, Dave would say there isn't, but whatever. He's not here.
Yes.
So,
He doesn't like real estate. He
yeah.
does, but
yeah.
He's like, buy a house with all cash. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Save that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
forget about the FICO score too.
Yeah.
Which I hate FICO scores too, just as an aside. But still, get your debt under control, if not completely eradicated. And then all that cash that you have on your person, it's not going toward credit cards. It's not going toward car payments. God, everybody thinks, man, car payments are a way of life. It's just the way it's going to be. And that's just not true. Like, I mean, that's my thought on that, but you're in a much better position financially when you've got your debt under control. And then you can turn your attention toward real estate, because it is the American dream. It's a real tangible thing that most of us have access to, that sadly too many of us don't have access to. And we as realtors and lenders, it's our responsibility to open those doors to historically disenfranchised people who have been kept out for so long. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, the white girl here talking, so I apologize.
No, I
but
totally agree.
Yeah.
Like it's an actual asset. You can see it, you can touch it with your hands, you
Exactly.
can fix it, you can add value.
Yes.
It'll grow in value. It literally is life-changing for so many families to have something that will substantially grow their net worth.
For generations to come.
Exactly. Generational wealth.
It's generational wealth. It
generational
really is. It's
safety, it's security.
It's yes, even in up and down markets, and if you're military, get a hold of your VA specialist. If you've gotten your debt under control and you're all solid, then I would say connect with your local VA specialist, because those people, they really know their stuff, or a lender that you can trust, and get the ball rolling, see what your options are. And if you can, buy with a VA, leverage, use the government as leverage. And then, the sky's the limit after that.
As long as the payments make sense.
As long as the payments make sense. Yeah. Exactly. The cash flow's got to be there.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be cash flow. I mean, if it is your home, right, make sure
primary.
When you put 0% down, you can have a substantial payment that might not make sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Maybe put a little down if you have it, just to kind of offset a little bit. But yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. What is the percentage that it's encouraged, like your house payment to be like 30% of your income? Is
30%
it 30%?
of your gross income.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the standard.
If you've got to put some money down so that you can get into that sweet spot, then do it, but
yeah, I think it depends totally on every family in the market, right? Too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 30% of somebody that makes $1,000 a month versus 30% of someone that makes $5,000 a month is a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So that would be my advice. and get started. And get started now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Gosh, I wish I hadn't waited, right? I know. All the things you say.
It's okay. I mean, I started in 2019.
Yeah.
As
long as you get started,
yeah.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot these days. I just turned 40, and so I'm like, ugh, if only, but
things can change very quickly in a couple years. And that's what happened for me, like I said. So thought I'd be a software engineer forever. Here I am, realtor, lots of properties. It is what it is. So
how many properties do you have, Steve?
I have 11 doors. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
yeah, I'm nowhere near where you are. But everybody's on their own journey.
I have partners too. So it's a learning experience. So
okay.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I've heard of with folks. They, military, even though they've got the VA under their belt, some of them will partner together and they'll buy deals together. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. If you find someone you can trust, you can go in and on it together and pool your resources and make that, a bigger punch.
Lowers the barrier of entry for sure. Yeah.
I am curious to know a little bit more about how to do that. That might be for another podcast. I'll keep listening, but I do want to know.
We talked a little bit about it on the show. I personally, I have 2 properties that I've done with one partner, and we've done it pretty simple. We're both on the loan. We're both on title. So like normally when you buy a house with like your spouse or whatever, right, you're going to be vested in a way that you're 100% owner. So if either of you were to die, it would automatically pass to the other owner, right, to your spouse, 100% of it. So the way I own it with my business partner is we're vested a little bit differently. We're both 50% owners. So if I were to die, my shares don't automatically go to my business partner. My shares stay in my estate.
Tenants in common, right?
Got it.
Yeah, and then you can set the percentage. So that's how we've done it. I mean, obviously, some people set up LLCs that set specific rules. Lots of different ways of cutting that. To me, that's the most simple, though, is to just vest that way in title. And but obviously, those type of things, that's for an estate attorney to advise on. Like, we don't pretend to give
legal advice.
Give that advice. I can tell you.
Stay in our lane.
Yeah, I can tell you how I've done mine and what makes sense for me and my family estate. But yeah, that's how we've seen all sorts of different methods.
Great.
Yeah. That's what I love. Real estate can get real creative.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, Steven, did you have anything else?
No, this was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. If someone wanted to reach out to you, pick your brain, join Women's Council, how would they find you?
Join Women's Council. Please join Women's Council. It'd be fantastic. Yeah. So again, I'm the membership director for the Women's Council of Realtors, and I'm with Premier Property Group as well. Am I allowed to leave a number?
Yeah, you can leave a number, whatever you
can put it in the show notes if you want, I guess, afterwards. But yes, absolutely. Look for me on social media. I'm Laurel Arenivar at Premier Property Group on Facebook. Your Home is Here. That's my handle on Instagram. Oh. And of course, you can reach me at laurel@premierpropertygroup.com if you want to email me. And I do have an out-of-state El Paso area code. It's like one of the few things I've held on to since. I know I need to change. No, it's true. And I'm getting a new phone, and I think we are going to change phone lines. And it's like a small death.
Then you lose all. Then you lose all your contact.
I know, and I
own it. Just own your area code.
I am right now. So yeah, you can contact me at 915-491-6910. Area code 915. That's El Paso. That's me. So no, I'm not a spam. I'm me. So thank you so much for allowing me to come on today, y'all. Really great, sobering, real conversation that I appreciate you providing the space to have.
We loved having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.